Okay, if you happen to be watching this live or later, as I like to say, we are in the final, it says the final hour, actually, about just a little over 45 minutes of field day operation for this station. And I'm running FT4. I've ran this in the past in some contests, but not quite as intense as this. I've run some 24-hour contests and operate 4 or 5 hours. I kind of did this one in reverse. I run 24 hours of field day and only slept about 4 or 5 hours. And so this is kind of the go home stretch of trying to get our score up as high as we can get it. And I've actually got my Windows screen displayed instead of just the program, so I can bring other things into the picture and show you. But one of the things I want to do with this also is kind of go over some of the things that I've learned about this FT4 mode that I just maybe didn't realize or whatever. I've really got to kind of figure this out this weekend. So the right screen, of course, is where all the action's going on as far as what I'm doing, and the left screen is the activity on the entire frequency or band, however you want to look at it for this particular mode. So if you're brand new to this and wondering what it's all about, I'll just show you some basic functions as well as we go along, and give you some advice on some mistakes I made and things that you can learn. But if you click the erase button one time, it'll erase this screen right here. If you double click it, it erases everything and just makes both these screens white. You can size adjust these how you want, so we'll just do that with them because they only take up so much room anyway. Of course, like any other window, you can scroll up and down. As you can see here, VA3 EON has come back to my CQ, and I'm coming back to him twice. He's come back to me once. One of the things I've discovered with field day, and it may be the same with other contests, is some guys will hit you up kind of one time and move on. If that happens, then I just go ahead and after a couple shots here and I don't hear back from them, I just go ahead and send my received in 7.3. We've exchanged each other's reports. Yeah, there it goes. Sometimes if you monitor their receiving frequency or their transmitting frequency for a minute, you figure out they've moved on. That's not always the case. Sometimes they just sort of fall into the mud, and you quit hearing them. So what I'm doing is after each contact confirms, I have to re-enable the transmitter. This, contrary to what some folks say, these FT4, FT8 mode is not just a turn your computer on and it'll do all the work for you. You've got to toggle the transmitter off and on after making contacts. Sometimes you get hung up in a contact, the computer will just keep going back and forth and exchanging reports, and at some point you have to override that, tell it to stop, go ahead and send your 7.3 however you want to do it. Call it a day. Again, here's another one. This one, negative 15 signal, I'm probably just losing him at some point. If this was normal everyday operation, this would not be good enough for a contact, because he may not have received what I sent back to him, but I got his report and he obviously heard me at some point. So for field day contest purposes, and I have not read anything anywhere to the contrary, after a few attempts, I go ahead and log the contact. And we restart the transmitter. A lot of these other buttons up here I use these three on the end the most. And again, I can hit this to make it stop transmitting. I hit the tune and it keys the transmitter. I can set my ALC, tune my amp, whatever I want to do. I am running an amplifier, however, I'm still running in what is considered the low power category. And what I mean by that, my transmitter has a capability of 100 watts. Uh, Low power is defined as up to 150 watts. So, in order to get it to the max that I can run and still be called low power, I use the amp and add just a little bit to it. Just run it at partial power. Okay, so I'm repeatedly calling CQ here. If I don't get an answer, there's a few things that I can do. Um, I can switch. Right now, I'm transmitting on the odd times. I can switch to even, and it's going to give me a whole another group of stations to contact. Another thing I can start doing is responding to all these folks calling CQ, and I can do that one of two ways. I can just double click on one of them. Oh, I'm getting a response. I can just double click on one of these, and I've got it to where stations that I have worked come up in green. It's default is light blue, but I like the green. And then everybody else just is white. Red is transmitting my call sign. And as you can see, yeah, see there's some folks calling CQ, but I've already worked them. So one of the things I can do if I'm not getting a response is I can click on this, and this is only in FT4 mode, not in FT8, this best S&P search and pounce. If I have the transmit enable red and I click best S&P, what's going to happen is if there's a strong enough signal there, or the strongest, not always the absolute strongest, but one of the better signals on there, it's going to go ahead and respond to that person. If I click best S&P and I have enable TX connected clicked and no one's called CQ, then it just defaults back to me calling CQ. Now what I can do, if this guy doesn't answer me here in just a second, we'll do that. Oh, there he is. What I can do is unclick enable TX and only click best S&P. What that's going to do, and I'll erase that screen to make it easier for reviewing pleasure. So without this enabled, it did it automatically. Oh, okay, yes, because it's responding. So if I only click best S&P, and let's say I'm monitoring the evens come up first and nobody calls CQ, it's not going to do anything. And then the odds come up, somebody calls CQ, it's going to respond to that person. So you can do it one or two ways. If I click enable TX and best S&P, then right now, where I don't have even checked, it's only going to respond to the ones on the odd cycle. So let's click it that way and just see what happens. And we're on 20 meters right now, and it's plentiful. Everybody's in the home stretch of field day. But that best S&P thing is probably one of the neatest features. I kind of saw it there, never really used it, never read up on it, in fact. And last night I was working, and the bands got kind of slim late at night. So I clicked that just to see what it would do. And next thing you know, I'm just hammering out contacts left and right because all of a sudden now, instead of calling CQ, I'm coming back to people that are calling CQ, whereas I was CQing before. So that opened up a whole other set of stations for me. And this guy's not going to respond back to me, it doesn't look like. Yeah, he's up and down on signal. So when that happens, you want to switch back to CQ and you just come back down here, check this box, hit the TX. And next time it's just going to call CQ. Now, he actually is pretty close to me. A lot of times if you see other stations in this box right here after you've made a contact, it doesn't mean you're transmitting on top of them or they're transmitting on top of you. Now, in this case, that's actually he's transmitting on top of me. What that means is you're still monitoring their transmit frequency. But I always check this, hold TX frequency. And the reason I do that, it keeps you from having to retune as far as your ALC and all that goes, because if you change your TX frequency with every contact, you're actually affecting all that. So I'm basically running split. I'm always transmitting right here on this this frequency, but the software will pick up and receive wherever the other person's transmitting. And as you well know, if you work any kind of DX to any extent, that the split is the way to go, especially if you're not running any kind of power anyway. You're not having to bust a pile up because you're kind of out there in your own little world, and they'll find you at some point. And it kind of works the same way right here. Another trick that I learned when it comes to contest logging, if you right now we're in field day mode. If you select, and I didn't think this would make any difference. I've had this number 2 tab selected. I'll show you it right here. And that's the one I always use, like when I'm just doing my regular chasing DX or whatever. If you have that selected, it won't put this tab right here, it won't put your info into the log box that comes from WSJT to your login program, and it'll make you manually input that every single time. And I did so many things trying to figure out what was going on and why that was happening, and it was just as simple as I needed to be checked up on this box right here. And everything started working right at that point. Hardly ever use the erase or the stop. Most of the time, if I wanted to stop transmitting, I just either click Alt TX or I can click Enable and it'll go away. The log QSO, I've used that some. If you get one that you've completed the QSO but the program didn't pick up correctly or something, you can hit that. I can limit this box to only see stations calling CQ. I normally don't do that because I want to see people coming back to me over here. Because okay, so right here I got 2 stations coming back to me. It's going to pick this guy first. If I either complete the QSO with him or it turns into a dud, then I can come back and double click this guy and try him again, and he might still be out there. Usually after it's run a couple cycles though, you're just might as well start calling CQ again. And we probably passed the point of grabbing him, so I'm going to go back to this best S&P. And it's found this guy right here. And there's probably a setting for this that you can adjust as far as the signals, because it doesn't always pick the absolute best signal, but it always picks good signals over bad. Like this guy right here, -17. When you're starting to get down that low below the noise floor, chances of me working him are a lot less. And so what's happened here is I've went back to this guy. He's picked up on somebody else, but he just 7-3'd him. So I'm going to give him another shot or two before I decide that we can't work. And there he is. I figured we would be able to because he's at a 14 positive basically. So that's his signal above the noise floor. And let's see. Oh, there we go. Got to re-enable. So see, the QSO itself, yeah, the software kind of runs it, and if everything runs smooth, it's just a matter of you toggling the transmitter back on. But it's not just a turn it on and walk away program, as some folks would have you to believe. I saw some pictures on Facebook and stuff, and 2 guys sitting on a dock or something, and it's like, oh, FT8, yeah, your radio's talking to my radio. How cool! But that's not what it is. Okay, we're gonna give up on him and go back to CQ, and I'm really trying to get some contacts hammered in here with the time that we have left. And let me just pull my score box in here and show you where I'm at right now. 432 QSOs, and you can look at the breakdown. Yes, I've been on USB, LSB, sideband, that kind of thing. Obviously, this mode has been the most fruitful overnight. 7 megahertz, 40 meter FT4 and the triple digits on that. I'm sitting here right now on 20 meters, and I'm one away from 100 on it. So it's definitely been the thing to be doing with a contest. When I did these videos before, I just had let the rig noise, I guess, play, and I figured folks could mute it if they didn't want to hear it. But then I thought, well, I could kind of have a twofold purpose and put a mic on me and actually talk through some of the how-tos and that kind of thing with this program, because that's one of the things we like to do here is teach folks how to use this stuff. Most of this stuff I'm no expert instructor on necessarily. Most of what I tell you is things based on my own trial and error, and you might be watching this and say, well, you know, I did trial and error and I found a better way to do this. Well, if you did, by all means, shoot me an email, because I'd like to know about it, and I may even put it in a video and give you credit for it. There's no financial compensation involved, but I'll give you bragging rights. If you want me to, throw out your call sign and your name. All right, I'm gonna go back to this S&P. If that doesn't work, then I'm gonna switch. Right now I'm on the even side. I'll switch back to the odd side and give that a try again. But it's gotta be red for it to work. There we go. Okay, so somebody else has come back to me off of my old CQ another cycle ago. So what I'm going to do, since this guy didn't come back immediately, I'll come over here and double click, and I'll try to make this contact. Hopefully I got to it in time. Oh, there it is. Yeah, he's 7-3ing me already, so he's serious about his contest. He or she. I just generically say he, but it could be either. Oh, and now I'm getting this guy back, so I'm getting, and you see the software picked up on that, because I'd already hit enable TX and was ready to go back to CQ, and it said, hey, this guy, he wants to talk to you. And now he decides he doesn't. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, I give it a couple tries for the purpose of contesting, and then I send him my 7-3s, and well, no, there he is again. And it's the thing too. If we're sitting here going back and forth, then you know, I just try to give him a mercy, Roger, as they say, and call it a day. Yeah, I worked him on 15 meters earlier. Yeah. And these arrows right here, if you hit the up arrow, it's going to change my transmit frequency to my receive frequency. If you hit the down arrow, it changes the transmit to receive. I may have said that backwards first time. But anyway, I avoid this one because I don't want to change my transmit frequency, but I'll hit it for my receive. That way, my little window is just showing me what's going on there. And the benefit of that, I guess, though, I can see if somebody's transmitting on top of me or I'm on top of them. I've been here for a while, so if anybody shows up, they're on top of me. It doesn't mean they're doing anything malicious. It might just mean that me and that station are far enough apart that we just didn't hear each other to begin with, and then all of a sudden the band has shifted, and there we are. They may, I may be seeing them. They may not be seeing me when that happens. Try to hold out and hope for the best, because I really hate moving my transmit frequency around when I'm already tuned up and everything, because again, a change in it, it doesn't necessarily affect your tuner settings, but your ALC, like on my Yaesu, it's called DT gain. if I make a shift too far one way or the other, then I'm going to be, chances are I'm going to be pushing a little too much on the ALC and distorting my signal. There's W4DOW. He's a local guy to me. Um, I'm not hearing him, but the other guy that he's talking to, I'm getting that transmission. So hey, maybe he'll pop up here in a minute and I can work him. YouTube says I've got an excellent stream, but it gave me a message that said it was a little slow a minute ago. So the audio stream. But if you're watching me and you can hear me okay, just shoot me a comment over there in the comment box on YouTube. It says I have 2 concurrent viewers. I'm not sure what the difference between concurrent and just watching me is. I've heard judges in court use that phrase concurrent before. Not that I've been in trouble in court, but if you know me, you know what I do for a living, so I see court more than most average people. Sorry about the clicking every time I transmit. That's just my aunt. Like I said, I'm just using it to give me, for whatever it's worth, the few extra watts up to the low power setting that I'm allowed. I'm not going to mute the microphone every time I open a drink or something, so you might hear some stuff like that in the background. You might even hear my washing machine because my laundry room is the room right behind me. I've got the door closed, but still, this is a good multitask mode. So I got some clothes in the wash. Oh, there we go. But for the final stretch here, I'm not getting up out of this chair. I'm going to run it until the timer goes off or whatever happens. There's different settings on this program. You can put these little divider bars. So if I switch bands and I don't clear this screen, it may say like 40 meters and divide it up. You can have all kinds of different colors pop up here. I've got it limited to pretty much the only thing I'm showing right now is stations I have not worked before come up in green, and stations returning my call sign come up in red. Other than that, I don't have a lot. Now, when I'm working every day, FT8 mode, FT4, whatever, and I'm chasing countries and states and all that kind of stuff, then, sorry for my HT going off in the background. When I'm doing all of that, I have it color code like it reads my logging program. There's a WSJT alert that I can dock to it, and it'll color code new states, new countries, that kind of thing. But I have to go back in and turn all that back on when I get done with the contest. And it's not that difficult. It's just a few clicks. There's all kinds of stuff you can do with this to color code different things like grids and all that. But if I get into working that, then I'll do that. I may turn most of the other stuff off because usually I just kind of chase one thing. Try to chase like new DX, CCs. If I get to a certain point with that and I'm running into a brick wall, I might start chasing grids. But I guess if I look at my logging program and break it down, I may have all those worked on a lot of bands. I may be part of the way there without even knowing it. It's just like county hunting. I don't necessarily try to pick and choose and look, but I look at my stats on counties every once in a while just based on Especially with this mode, I pretty much just work everybody anyway. And the reason I do that, if I've never worked them before, I just try to grab them just because I figure somewhere along the line I'll pick up some new counties and other stats. That's the cool thing about this mode. I mean, it's just easy to go ahead and work people, and it seems like that's the culture of the mode. Everybody works everybody. Occasionally you'll get in there and you will, or another person will just call CQDX. I do that some. You'll still get stateside guys come back to you. Um, Not a terrible amount. I just go ahead and work them because I figure maybe they need my state or my county or my whatever. So I just go ahead and work them and then start calling CQDX again. You can come down here on your standard message, and other than contests, I usually use this box right here, and you can just type in, you hit CQ, and then you add the DX in there. Another thing, I'm chasing Wyoming for FT4 if I didn't get them during this, which I don't know if they'll confirm that through LOTW for a contest, but so I'll get on there occasionally and call CQ Wyoming, CQ space WY and all my info. And I've noticed a whole lot of other people doing the same thing. So apparently there's just like no one in Wyoming that operates FT4. I know they operate FT8 because I've got worked off states FT8. So I need to go back on my log and see who all I worked in Wyoming on FT8 because it's the exact same software, and just start sending emails and be like, hey, can you meet me somewhere? It's mixed bands what I'm after right now, so it don't matter. Okay, so we're gonna go back to this S&P thing because my CQs went several and no answers. So I'm going to again keep the enable TX checked and use S&P. That way, if no one's calling CQ, then it'll automatically default to me calling CQ. But if there's stations out there, then wow, that was quick. It'll respond to them. So I mean, this is definitely like I said, this is the contesting mode right here. This is right now you can go to just about anywhere if the band's open that you can operate for field day and find stations working FT4. There is no FT4 frequency for 160 meters, but just about any other band. Let's see, he's coming back to me, so let's go back to him. Okay, that was okay. So there was an exchange up there already. But just about any band that's open. I've even got on 2 meters, not during field day, but other like the VHF contest, and found FT4 contacts on 2 meters, which is kind of hard to do. Found plenty of FT8 during those contests. 6 meters is the same one. Now 6 meters you'll get some FT4 and FT8 during contests. For the most part, FT4 is not really active unless there's a contest going on, with the exception of 20 and 40 and sometimes 80 at night. You can, during the day, 10 meters could be wide open. Go to FT8 and you've got like this whole screen filling up every single time somebody calls, every single cycle. And then you switch over to FT4 and there's like nobody or one guy. If the band's open and you're getting a bunch on FT8 and you want to try FT4, don't get disappointed if you go over there and there's nobody on the band whatsoever. I even did this with FT8 before FT4 came along. Throw out your CQ on a dead band and just see what happens. You'll be surprised sometimes. Okay, so this happens sometimes. It had to do with how the exchange went down. It didn't pick up his report. So we just type it in there. Yeah, and see he's acknowledging us there. So it just ran backwards or something for some reason. Let's see. Nobody's said hi to me on the the live view yet, so maybe may not have any viewers. Maybe watching this later. I really wanted to get 500 contacts. I'm at 440. So if I can get to 450 here in the next few minutes before this all ends, then that'd be good. Which means I'm not going to fool with any one station any very long. A couple of strikes and you're out, and I go on to the next thing. Yeah, he's not copying me anyway. CQ. And if you're missing the FT4 noise, I can turn my radio up in the background, let you listen to it. I keep the volume kind of cracked though, that way I know everything's still going good. I don't need to hear the noise blaring or anything because it doesn't benefit me at all. I don't know what it's saying. But I do keep it cracked open just a little bit, and that way, especially when I'm not running the amp and that relay's kicking, I know for sure when the thing's transmitting and there's activity. And one of the neat things that happened was during the VHF contest, I think it was either on 6 meters or 2 meters or both at some point, and a couple of local guys, we made contact with each other, and you could tell when they were on there because it's the signal right now, just the general signal coming from this mode, is like an S9, and it went 20 and 40 over when those guys popped in. All right, I'll have to move on. Oh, here we go. See, by the time I'm ready to give up on somebody, then it's like, oh, hey, here I am. It happens that way. Clear that screen out for your viewing pleasure. I don't know that I could get, at this rate, I could get 9 contacts in 15 minutes. I'm not about to switch bands and try to have to retune and do all that. That's just going to take up too much time. And this one, there's plenty of activity. Oh, there we go. This has probably been the most productive field day for me personally as far as operating goes, because I've just kind of been at home. Seems like when I go to the field day site that I do a lot of other things too, help with setup and all that kind of stuff, cook, mingle with the crowd, all that kind of stuff. And here I pretty much just came to my station that was already set up, sat down, and I have pretty much been operating since the beginning. I had a couple of hiccups with my logging program that were my fault. Somehow or another, I got my N3 FJP logger to where it won't read all the information off of this program. Thankfully, it was just the field day logger, so I'll probably have to uninstall and reinstall it. I've messed up some kind of port or something, so I ended up having to revert back to my N1MM. But again, nothing bad against the N3 FJP program. It was my fault. The fix was as simple as changing this tab right here, if you see where my cursor's pointing. But I went through like so many things trying to fix it that I ended up messing something up, and I probably could sit down here and get it straightened out, but I was in contest mode and ready to start making contacts, so I just reverted back to what I knew I hadn't messed with and would work, and started making contacts. All right, we're getting aggressive here. Hopefully this guy can hear me. He's at a 8 plus 8. Yep, that was a good call. We'll try that again. Clear that screen for your viewing pleasure. Now we go for a guy that's negative the same direction, just about. But not so far negative that we shouldn't be able to work him. But sometimes you just can't. I'm going to go back to CQ and see what happens. He may come back to us. If he does, the software will pick up on it and communicate with him. If not, yeah, we've just moved on to someone else. I still have the option. I'll probably do it here in just a second of switching to the odd side again. Yeah, because most of these guys that are calling CQ right here are in the negative way and the negative in the teens, and that's a stretch on whether you're going to be able to communicate with them. So we're going to, of course, that was an instant CQ there, as it says. Now let's go back to this. $444 contacts. 10, yeah, I'll say 10 minutes left to go. A little over 10. Which in a mode that only takes 7.5 seconds to send a transmission, that's some valuable time. Wow, there's lots more activity on this side. As Howard Cosell would say, "A fight to the finish. He's gonna go down swinging." I know you don't watch this channel for my humor. All right, this guy's at a negative 13, so it's going to be an easy decision to give up on him. Actually, though, that's a workable scenario, but any other day, if he was like North Korea on FT8, we'd keep trying. We'd get him eventually. But here, it's just 2 points. And so's the other guy, so we'll just keep going. Actually, more than that with the multiplier, but okay. Let's go back to this. See what happens. Okay, that's definitely not the best, because there's a, let's see if we can squeeze that guy in. He's at a positive 12, and it went back to a negative 18. I've reached a point in my amateur radio activity where I no longer think of Canada as DX. I did a program at my son's school. His teacher asked me to come, and I had sent her scanned copies of my QSL cards. They were learning maps. So I sent her scanned copies of those and was like, hey, this is what I do, and this is a good way to relate stuff with these maps. And she asked me to come talk to this class, do like a little 30-minute talk or whatever about some of these places I talked to and how I talked to them, and all that kind of stuff. So I went in there, and it was really kind of neat and interesting. They were amazed with it. Tried to explain ham radio as best I could and that kind of thing. But they were like, well, do you have any of these cards we can have? And I said, sure. So speak of that, I got a handful of the Canadian cards. It just took them and gave them to the teacher. I was like, here, let them have them. I got more than I can say grace over, and I'm sure most of us do. Nothing wrong with those folks. I ain't saying that. But Canada, Mexico, you know. When I got my Tech Plus license years ago, I was excited that was all DX. I've worked them 500 million times. And Italy, too, which is like even further, of course. Oh, it's a +4. Let's go after him. Said I'm getting aggressive here. I'm getting picky. See, it's not all just click the button and let your computer work your stuff for you. Maybe I should put a disclaimer on this video. If you're anti-FT8, FT4, WSJT modes, and you watch this video, you're going to have a bad time. Not necessarily. Maybe you watch this video, and my ultimate goal would be that you would watch it and understand it better and think, oh man, yeah, I'd like to try that. Six minutes and 446 contacts. Surely, okay. There's another one. I'm going to say, surely I can find 4 more people in 6 minutes. Band switching is not an option, though, because it would just take way too much time. This guy's got a good one. I'm going to go ahead and that's the thing, you can click on it ahead of time. It's not going to automatically start transmitting. It'll wait for that cycle that he's in. Oh, somebody beat me to him. So let's go back to CQing. He may see that and still come back to me. At some point, I've done that before. Yeah, there's a response. Get this one clear. I need 2 more people. Got 4 minutes to get it done. I ain't got all day to fool with him. He's going to hose up my transmitter here. Okay, this software doesn't know math very well. I'm sure there's a setting somewhere I can tweak on that and make it work better. I just don't know where it is and don't have the time to fool with it right this second. But if I do, I will do another video and let you know all about it. I think I'm going to stay with this side though, because it looks like the activity is plentiful. There's a strong one. Let's go after him. Yeah, whenever you do that, don't let that first strikeout mess with you. If you're jumping over here and going after a guy, because you may have got in toward the end of the cycle and he didn't copy you. But after a couple runs and he doesn't respond to you, then especially if you're trying to contest and move on. $448 contacts. I need at least one more. I don't like that number. That's an inside joke, but definitely want to get at least one more, if not two. One minute. I'd say at best we'll get that one more. I don't think we'll get two at this point because each one of these contacts takes a certain amount of time. There's one. And we're going to get him a 7-3 right here at the end, because I would imagine if we initiate the contact before the buzzer, then we should be good. 2 seconds. Nope, that's not going to happen. Well, I did get that one more contact, but I was one shy of the 450 I was trying to shoot for. Let's see how many people are still calling CQ Field Day. That one guy's popping up there. I wouldn't believe how many people I saw there. There's some more. I wouldn't believe how many I saw like way before it was supposed to start. I know there's certain circumstances where some people can stay on longer. I won't go into all that, but I'm in the category of I have to end at this time, 24-hour period. So thank you for watching my video, whether you were here live or pulled it up later. Hopefully you enjoyed my commentary that went with it, and I didn't move my cursor around too fast for you. I will show you my final score, which is pretty good, if I do say so myself. 1,756 points according to QSOs. I've got a couple other things I can throw in there that's going to hopefully bump that up. I've never, as most of us done, never had to submit my own score for field day, so we'll see what the form allows me to do. I did have my 10-year-old son make a contact, so that should give me 100 bonus points for youth contact and all that. But spent some time on FT8 last night on 160 meters. Got an inverted L up for that, and it's pretty much no tune resonant, ready to go. And then I went over to 80 and actually worked 3 different modes there. Got FT4, FT8, and I did a little voice modes there. I only got about 4 contacts. One of the benefits of these digital modes for me is I've got kids, and I can sit here with as much noise as they want to make and keep making QSOs. Looks like my winning band was 40 meters, FT4 with 179 contacts, and then you throw in these others I got for sideband and FT8. And 20 meters, I never did any voice or anything. I just got 116 folks for FT4. So did pretty good on 15 this morning, and 10 was decent. Made a couple sideband contacts there and talked with some local people on 2-meter simplex FM. So thank you for watching my video, and be sure and subscribe if you haven't already, and drop me a note in the comments. Let me know what you think of it. I don't need to know about Girls Gone Wild or anything like that. For some reason, these little robot things or something get on here and make comments, and they'll be like, "You want to be friends?" and then they'll refer you to different sites that wouldn't want to refer anybody to. So if you see that, just ignore it. I'll pick up on it at some point and delete it and report the account. And with that, I hope everybody had a good field day, and I'll be signing off. N4NT.